Former Biden press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has left the Democrat Party and announced a memoir, Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines, set to publish in October. The book promises insider accounts of dysfunction in Biden's final months and critiques of the party's 2024 collapse. Her announcement drew backlash from former colleagues who accuse her of opportunism. Her shift mirrors Jake Tapper's controversial new book, Original Sin, which alleges Biden's cognitive decline was hidden by staffers, despite Tapper once defending him, actually multiple times defending him. Both figures now face criticism for profiting off of narratives they once helped protect. This is the subject that we're going to be talking about with Nick Searcy, my longtime friend, actor and director, international film and television star, known for Justified, Castaway, The Shape of Water, and Capital Punishment, which we'll get to in a minute. Hi, Nick.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Excellent. Both Jean-Pierre and Tapper were embedded insiders. Do you see their tell-alls as redemption arcs or career pivots dressed up as courage?
It's the most bald-faced lying I think we've ever seen. It's incredible. I mean, it's almost two different things. Jake Tapper's book is like pretending like he wasn't in on it, and writing this book about, by the way, Biden was really senile while he was in office, and I just didn't notice it. It'd be like he wrote a book going, Michael Jordan was a really great basketball player, and I just didn't notice it. It's like, we all knew that. Everybody knew that except you, and you're lying about it anyway. So and then, with KGP, it's like she like pretends like she wasn't in the White House. It's like, oh, there was a lot of dysfunction around Biden, but, I was different. And she's the one lying at the podium every day.
She was the Baghdad Bob of the Biden, the entire Biden administration. Well, except for, what's her name on MSNBC in the first, the Peppermint Patty. Yeah. So how do these post-facto exposés shape public perception of media integrity and political loyalty?
Well, I don't think they have any impact at all, because who's going to buy that book? Conservatives are not going to buy that book, either of those books, because we already knew everything that's in it. And Democrats are not going to buy those books because basically the books are telling them you're stupid and gullible. And we all fell for it because we're so stupid. So I don't know who's going to buy that book except for like other people in Washington.
It's kind of like the New York Times years after the fact saying, as it turns out, the COVID might have actually escaped from a lab. We're just finding out. Really?
It didn't come from a bat. We knew that.
Yeah. There's like a 4-year time delay in the mainstream media, it seems.
Well, they always tell the truth after the lie has had its desired effect. And so it doesn't hurt Jake Tapper now. He can make a few bucks off the lie that was told because the lie's run its course. There's no point in keeping up the lie anymore. So that's how they always do it. And then when they finally admit to the lie, they start saying, oh, it's old news now. We already talked about that.
Yeah, after the damage is done. Are these moments signs of institutional collapse or simply what happens when the ship starts sinking?
I think it's both. I mean, I think the institutions are collapsing, and they're collapsing because finally they have revealed themselves. And I think that the election of Trump, the first term, is what started to pull the mask off of everybody. And after it was so obvious that the media was out to get Trump and so partisan against him, that's when people started waking up. And I mean that the people in the middle, the people on the left are never going to wake up, but the people in the middle started going, oh, okay, these people are not who they say they are. They are not telling us the truth, and we have to face that.
Now, speaking of your other film, Capital Punishment, directed by my mentor, Chris Burgard, starring you, and featuring our other guest tonight, Dr. Simone Gold, the Trump administration has agreed to pay nearly $5 million to the family of Ashley Babbitt, the Air Force veteran fatally shot by Capitol Police on January 6th. You interviewed her brother in the film. The settlement resolves a $30 million wrongful death lawsuit filed by Babbitt's estate, which alleged that the faceless, trigger-happy coward, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, used excessive force without warning as Babbitt attempted to breach the Speaker's lobby. Do you anticipate there being justice for the hundreds of other J6 political prisoners who had their reputations, livelihoods, and years of their lives ripped from them over the modern-day Reichstag fire we call January 6th?
Well, I certainly hope so. And one little correction, we interviewed her husband Aaron
yeah.
Babbitt. And I, when the $5 million settlement was announced, I thought that's great. That's not enough, but it's something. And when the pardons came down, I mean, there was a lot of rejoicing because not everybody thought that it was going to happen, that Trump was actually going to go through with it. And when we did, it was great news. But what people don't realize is that's not enough. I mean, these people have had their lives destroyed. It's not just that they had to go to prison for something that they shouldn't have been charged with. It's that their businesses were destroyed, their reputations were destroyed in their communities. The government demonized these people, made their neighbors hate them, called them racists and white supremacists and domestic terrorists, caused their businesses to be boycotted, in many cases caused marriages to end. They destroyed these people's lives, and they did it all to advance this narrative in order to get Trump. The whole January 6th thing was a setup, which is another story. That's what Capital Punishment and the sequel, The War on Truth, are about. It was a setup, but beyond that, it was a setup because the whole point was to preserve the corruption in Washington and get rid of the biggest threat to it, which was Donald Trump.
That actually leads me directly to my next question, which is, do you anticipate a reckoning for the federal agents who seem to have been complicit in stagecrafting the events of January 6th?
Well, I certainly hope so. I have hopes for that. I mean, I have met Kash Patel. I've met Dan Bongino a number of times. I think they're men of integrity. I hope that is going to happen. But I realize, and I hope everybody else realizes, that as much as we criticize them, we have to acknowledge that the deep state is real, they're entrenched, and they fight dirty. So it's going to be hard to get them out. You can see what's happening with the judges, with all the things that they're doing. The Democrat judicial system, especially in Washington, D.C., is part of the reason the January 6 people were so persecuted. The corruption in that institution is going to protect all the people that committed the crimes against the January 6ers. So it's going to be a tough road, but I hope we can travel it because these people need to be brought to justice.
Yeah, I was noting this during the break, but it bears repeating that there's a brilliance to the documentaries you and Chris Burgard make. You deal with such heavy-handed subject matter, while at the same time having fun and blending humor in it, while at the same time paying due reverence to the subject matter. It's something that I've seen very few filmmakers master. Tarantino with Inglourious Bastards did it, but you guys, your documentaries all seem to do that, where they're fun to watch, they're entertaining, they're light, they're humorous, but they're also so heavy and so intense, and you find the perfect balance. Now, I'm delighted to hear that you're doing a sequel. So tell us about that, and tell us what other projects you're working on that you want to plug here.
Well, the sequel's already out. We released it on January 6th of this year. It's a 4-part documentary called The War on Truth, and it sort of continues the story of January 6th and follows a lot of these people and tells the story of who they really are. And, that they're not white supremacists, they're not domestic terrorists, they weren't there to destroy democracy and all the other nonsense that was said about them. And you can find it on hisglory.tv right now. We released it for free on January 6th. And I also have a book out right now called Justify This. You can find it on Amazon, or you can write to me on Twitter about it. But it's a book about my modest acting career, but there's also chapters about January 6th and the documentaries and how we made them. So.
And really quick, can you tell us the name of the documentary we were talking about during the break that you did back in 2020 that was so phenomenal?
Yeah, it was called America, America, God Shed His Grace on Thee. It was the first documentary that Chris and I did together. And it's an exploration of the connection between the Bible and the Constitution. And interviews with Herman Cain and Andrew Young and Ben Shapiro and a lot of conservative thought leaders. And it's really good. It holds up really well. It's also available on Amazon Prime. If you Google Nick Searcy, God Shed His Grace on Thee, it'll come up.
Nick Searcy, international film and television star, thank you so much for being with us. I had a lot of fun.
Good to see you again, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And coming up, a Jewish school teacher sues the Portland Teachers Union for pro-Palestinian activities. Aaron White is here to explain.